Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're doing something a bit different. We're not tackling, huge complex theories.
Right.
Instead, we're digging deep into some really basic, everyday phrases, the kind of bedrock of daily communication.
Yeah, the workhorse phrases.
Exactly. We're focusing on 4 simple phrases you probably hear, I don't know, multiple times a day. But they can be confusing for learners because the meaning isn't always literal. It really depends on the situation, the context. So our mission today is to take these 4 phrases, really pull them apart, look at the nuances, and give you a shortcut, hopefully, to sounding, well, completely natural and like you really get it when you speak English.
Yeah, and that's really where fluency lives, isn't it? It's less about memorizing complex grammar rules
Right.
and more about mastering these essential everyday building blocks, these colloquial phrases. They're like the linguistic grease. They make conversations just flow.
Linguistic grease, I like that.
Yeah, it moves you past just knowing the dictionary definition into actually communicating naturally. So we focused our analysis really on the practical side.
Right.
Yeah.
How these phrases actually shape social interactions, how they manage expectations, even how they carry some subtle emotional weight. Mastering them isn't just about grammar. It's kind of mastering a little piece of the culture, too.
That's a great way to put it. We're looking at the hidden power in these seemingly simple words, understanding the social weight, the professional weight. It lets you use them much more effectively.
Definitely.
So the 4 power tools we're sharpening today are back and forth,
Mm-hmm.
short notice,
Yeah.
come up with something,
Classic.
and hands-on experience.
Yeah.
These are phrases you really need to internalize, not just recognize. So let's just jump right in.
Let's do it.
Okay, first up, back and forth. If you think about reaching an agreement, especially when it takes some effort, well, the energy involved is often perfectly described by this phrase. It starts with a really literal meaning, right? Physical movement. And that kind of lays the groundwork for the more metaphorical uses we see all the time. So let's start there with the concrete meaning, movement.
Right. The literal sense is just movement between 2 specific points, or just going in both directions again and again.
Like kids in a hallway.
Exactly. Like the example, the kids kept running back and forth in the hallway.
Mm.
If you picture that, it's continuous, it's repetitive. It implies this kind of constant energy, an oscillation almost.
Oscillation.
Yeah.
That's interesting. It's like it never really settles at one end or the other.
Precisely. That idea of repetition is key.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't really use back and forth for just one trip, say, from the kitchen to the living room.
No.
You use it when the movement itself is sustained, maybe a bit chaotic like the kids, or just a very defined continuous pattern,
Yeah.
like a pendulum swinging back and forth, or the tide.
Okay, so that sustained two-way motion is baked into the phrase. It emphasizes that the movement isn't about reaching a final destination and stopping.
Exactly. And that underlying idea of continuous energy, that's what makes the phrase so useful when we talk about things that aren't physical movement.
Right, because we can apply that same feeling of sustained activity, even if it's all happening in emails or, just in conversation.
Right.
But the really interesting part, and why this is so vital professionally, is how we take that physical idea and map it onto the abstract world. Ideas, negotiations.
Yes.
Like when a project manager says something like, oh yeah, a lot of back and forth on the timeline, they're definitely not talking about pacing the office floor.
No, definitely not. It's the exchange, right?
Mm-hmm.
The physical idea of passing something back and forth becomes an intellectual or conversational exchange.
So it's about ideas being exchanged.
Yeah, ideas, proposals, feedback, they're exchanged, maybe looked at, tweet, sent back. When you hear back and forth used metaphorically like that, it almost always hints that, well, it wasn't straightforward. It suggests there were maybe different initial viewpoints that needed bridging. Or the topic itself was complex enough that it needed several rounds of discussion or review.
Okay, but does back and forth always mean there was like a fight or some kind of disagreement? Could it just describe, a really smooth, productive collaboration? Or does the phrase itself kind of hint that there was some resistance, something to push through?
Well, that's a really good question, actually. It can describe easy collaboration, sure. But often, the amount of back and forth you mention gives a clue. Look at that example. We had a lot of back and forth before agreeing on the contract. Saying a lot immediately tells you, okay, the stakes were probably high.
Yeah.
Getting that agreement wasn't simple.
Right. It implies multiple drafts, maybe lawyers involved.
Exactly. Redlining, comments, sending it over, getting it back. If it had been easy, you'd probably just say, oh, we agreed on the contract pretty quickly. So yeah, more back and forth, often suggests more complexity, maybe more disagreement initially, or just more sensitive details to iron out.
So it really signifies a deep process. Like if you're talking about a company merger or something huge,
Hmm.
and you report there was constant back and forth for 3 weeks, you're basically validating how much work went into it. The legal side, the financial side. You're showing you really dug into every detail from both perspectives.
You are absolutely signaling that it was a true dialogue, not just a lecture,
Mm-hmm.
not one side dictating terms. It means, proposal A goes over here, gets modified, comes back as counterproposal B, and that cycle might repeat several times. It
Wow.
really highlights the effort needed to get to that final point, that consensus.
Yeah.
It definitely wasn't one-sided.
That makes it a surprisingly powerful phrase, actually. In management, maybe even diplomacy.
Yeah.
Using back and forth can frame the final agreement as something hard-won, which might make people value it more.
That's true.
And it also gives leaders a way to justify, say, why something took so long. Well, we had extensive back and forth, really rigorous discussion. It shows they were engaged.
Exactly right. And that iterative nature, that's the thread connecting the physical meaning and the metaphorical one. In both cases, the action doesn't just stop. It keeps going. There's sustained engagement.
Okay, so we need a way to remember this dual meaning. The source suggested an analogy, right? A tennis ball.
Yeah, the tennis ball analogy works really well, I think.
How so?
Well, just picture a tennis ball moving between two players. That visual helps lock in both meanings almost instantly.
Okay.
For the physical meaning, obviously, it's the ball flying across the net back and forth again and again.
Right.
For the conversational meaning, the ball represents the idea or the proposal or maybe the document with tracked changes, whatever it is that's being sent, received, and returned.
Ah, I see. So the moment you visualize that tennis ball, you get that core idea of exchange, of sustained energy, and that two-way street, whether it's physical movement or mental effort.
Exactly. It's fundamentally about that reciprocal exchange.
Okay, so if back and forth handles the complexity of ideas, our next phrase, short notice, tackles the complexity of time, or rather, the lack of it.
Time pressure.
This one is just pure gold if you want to sound fluent, because it's everywhere, every day. It's a critical tool for managing expectations around timing.
Absolutely. And the basic meaning is, well, pretty straightforward. It just means there isn't much time available to prepare for something.
Right.
It's the verbal shorthand for, oops, this is happening soon, or I need this immediately. It signals a time crunch.
But what's really fascinating about short notice isn't just the time aspect, it's how it functions socially, emotionally.
Yeah.
It's rarely just a neutral statement about the clock, is it? It
Yeah.
almost always carries this little bit of implied emotional weight, especially when you use it in your personal life.
Oh, absolutely. You see that all the time in informal situations. It often comes right before an apology, doesn't it?
Like the example.
Yeah, the classic. Sorry for the short notice, but can you babysit tonight?
Hmm.
If you break that down, socially speaking, the speaker knows they're asking for a big favor with very little warning. They probably feel a little guilty about it.
So the phrase itself is kind of an apology built in.
Exactly. It's a
Wow.
social softener. The speaker is signaling, look, I know this is inconvenient. I know I'm putting you on the spot, but I'm kind of desperate here.
Right. By acknowledging the time crunch up front, they're sort of validating the burden they're placing on the other person. It's like saying, I see you. I know you have a life. I recognize this is inconvenient. Sorry about that, but please help.
And that's smart communication, isn't it? It manages the social dynamic. If you just barreled in with, can you babysit tonight, without the short notice part.
Yeah, that could sound demanding or inconsiderate.
Right. But adding, sorry for the short notice, manages expectations. It
Right.
actually makes the listener, even if they have to say no, feel like their time is valued. It can improve the chances of getting a yes, or at least maintain the relationship.
It really does. Think about wedding invitations. You get one 6 months out, fine. But if someone calls you 2 days before and says, hey, can you make it? Sorry for the short notice.
Right. Yeah.
That phrase is doing a lot of work there. It's heading off the potential offense of such a late invite. It shows the asker knows it's a ridiculous request time-wise, even if maybe they couldn't help the circumstances.
Yeah, and that brings up a good point. What if it's genuinely not the speaker's fault? Like their flight just got canceled 5 minutes ago, and now they desperately need a ride from the airport.
Do they still need to apologize for the short notice?
I think they often do, yeah.
Mm.
The apology isn't necessarily for causing the situation,
Ah, okay.
but for imposing the resulting time crunch onto the other person. You're apologizing for the sudden pressure you're now putting on their schedule. It's about showing empathy. even in an emergency.
That makes sense. Okay, so that's the personal side, apology, social management, empathy. Now let's shift gears. What happens when we take that same time pressure into the workplace?
Right? Professional environment. Here, the dynamic changes quite a bit, that personal guilt thing. It usually fades away.
Okay.
And the phrase becomes more about describing performance, capability, adaptability.
Like in the work example, I had to give a presentation on short notice.
Exactly. In a work context, being given short notice or having to act on short notice implies certain things. Speed, flexibility, the need to think on your feet, turn things around quickly.
So it's less of an apology and more just a statement of fact, like this happened unexpectedly and I had to deal with it.
Pretty much.
Oh,
Or it can even be a subtle way of highlighting your own skills. If you say you delivered something effectively on short notice,
right.
you're implicitly saying you performed well under pressure. You didn't have the usual time to prepare and refine, but you still got the job done. It
Right.
highlights adaptability, resilience, efficiency.
It almost becomes a badge of honor
It
sometimes.
can, yeah. It often functions as this quiet acknowledgement of someone's competence under duress.
You could even put it on a resume, couldn't you? Successfully delivered Project X on short notice.
Absolutely. In an interview, saying that signals a lot to the hiring manager. It says you're organized, you can handle pressure, you're flexible, you can pivot when things change suddenly. It definitely elevates the achievement.
Okay, so that's a really critical distinction then. Personal life. Often an apology, managing inconvenience, social smoothing.
Mm-hmm.
Professional life. More about describing performance under constraint, highlighting adaptability and resilience. Saying you did something on short notice at work is often a way to low-key showcase your competence.
Exactly. Mastering that difference in nuance is key to using the phrase effectively.
All right, moving from the pressure of time to the spark of ideas, let's tackle our third phrase. Come up with something.
Ah, yes, the engine of innovation.
Well, maybe. It certainly speaks directly to a really vital activity, both at work and just in life generally. Creating things, finding solutions. This phrase is pretty much the standard way we talk about generating ideas or plans or solutions.
Yeah, the core definition is pretty clear, basically. To think of something new or invent something.
Right.
And the beauty of it is its flexibility. It works just as well for totally abstract things like, I don't know, coming up with a new theory
Hmm.
as it does for very concrete things like coming up with a plan to fix a leaky faucet or a solution to a logistical problem. There's that nice upward motion in the phrase, too, come up like the idea is surfacing, rising from somewhere deeper.
Yeah, I like that. Let's look at the purely creative side first. The example given was about invention. She came up with a brilliant story for the competition.
Right. Here, the focus is clearly on pure creation, originality. There wasn't story, and then through some cognitive process, boom, a new original story exists.
So this usage really emphasizes that mental leap, the moment of inspiration maybe, or just the hard work of thinking that leads to something novel.
Exactly. When we talk about coming up with a story or a design or a new recipe, we're kind of celebrating that creative process itself. It's about taking raw ingredients, knowledge, imagination, experience, and blending them into something fresh and usable.
And often the quality is implied too, isn't it? Like in the example, a brilliant story. If you just thought of a story, maybe it wasn't great. But if you came up with a brilliant one, the phrase seems to capture both the creation and the successful outcome.
That's a good point. Now, contrast that creative angle with how it's used in, say, strategic planning. The focus shifts a bit there.
From pure creation to more like problem solving.
Yeah, exactly. Problem solving within certain constraints, usually aiming for a specific goal.
The business example fits this perfectly. We need to come up with a new marketing strategy.
Right. Now, the strategy itself might use existing tactics. Maybe nothing is existentially brand new.
Yeah.
But the specific combination of actions tailored to solve the current business problem, maybe falling sales, or entering a new market, that combination is what's new. You're generating a strategy specifically to fix something or achieve something.
So it connects the thinking directly to a practical goal.
Yeah.
You're not just idly brainstorming anymore.
No, you're purposefully driving towards a functional outcome. There's often an urgency implied too.
Hmm.
The business problem means we need to come up with this solution. It bridges that gap between just thinking and producing something concrete, something measurable.
Okay, so whether it's pure invention like a story or applied invention like a marketing plan, the core process seems similar. An idea starts inside, and then it's brought out. You're searching your internal stuff for something new to present.
That's a great way to put it. And to really get a handle on this, the source material had this great visual analogy, picturing your brain like a treasure chest.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. I thought that was really
Me
effective.
too.
Eh.
The idea is when you successfully come up with something,
Oh.
it's like you're reaching into that treasure chest in your mind and pulling out this shiny new idea to share or use.
Huh, I like that. A shiny new idea. It really captures the feeling of finding something valuable inside yourself.
Yeah, it implies the idea was sort of stored or maybe formed deep inside you. And the act of coming up with it is that process of successfully retrieving it, bringing it up into the light and presenting it. That come up part really suggests it's rising from the depths of your thought process into consciousness or into the conversation.
And it also subtly validates the mental effort involved, doesn't it?
How do you mean?
Well, if a team is stuck on a problem and they say, we just couldn't come up with a solution, it sounds different than just saying, we didn't think of one. The first way acknowledges that they were trying to invent something to pull that shiny idea out of the chest, but hit a roadblock. It sounds more like an expression of intellectual struggle.
That's true. It gives credit to the fact that finding the solution required actual invention, not just remembering something already known.
Yeah, we didn't think of a solution. It sounds a bit passive, maybe even lazy, but we couldn't come up with one. Highlights the active, generative process they were attempting. It implicitly values the act of trying to create.
Absolutely. It celebrates the generation,
Yeah.
even when acknowledging its absence in that moment.
Okay, on to our final phrase, and it's a big one in today's world. Hands-on experience.
The gold standard.
Pretty much. It's become the definitive way we talk about the difference between, say, learning by reading about something versus actually doing it. It's hugely valued in education, careers, everywhere.
Yeah, the core meaning is really simple.
Yeah.
You're actively doing the thing, not just passively learning about it by, reading a book or listening to a lecture.
It's theory versus practice.
Exactly. The moment you hear hands-on, your brain should immediately jump to active personal involvement, getting your hands dirty, so to speak.
And this phrase is so central to how we judge skills now, especially in the job market. That's why you see it constantly in course descriptions, job ads, resumes, like the example about career growth. This internship will give you hands-on experience in engineering. Why is that phrase so powerful there? What does it really signal?
It signals proven, practical skill. It means you didn't just learn the theory, you actually applied it.
Right.
Theoretical knowledge is great, it's necessary, but hands-on experience proves you can translate that theory into actual results in the real world, often dealing with all the messy bits the textbooks leave out.
Yeah, the unexpected problems.
Exactly. So for that engineering intern, hands-on means they've likely actually worked with the materials, maybe managed part of a process, solved problems that needed immediate practical action, not just writing an essay about it.
It feels like society's response to realizing that just knowing stuff isn't the same as being able to do stuff.
I think that's right. Hiring managers know a degree tells them what you know, but hands-on experience tells them what you can actually do. It suggests you have demonstrated competence, maybe even under pressure. It's the difference, like you said, between reading the pilot's manual and actually flying the plane.
Okay, and that demonstrated competence piece is key because it tells an employer you can bridge that gap between theory and practice. You didn't just study the machine, you operated it. You didn't just learn the code, you wrote the program.
Now, what's interesting is how the idea of hands-on has evolved a bit.
How so?
Well, it used to strongly bring to mind, physical tools. Like the other example, the workshop offers hands-on experience with real tools. You picture hammers, wrenches, maybe lab equipment. Very literal.
Okay, physical engagement.
But today, so many of our tools are digital, right? Software, coding languages, complex systems. So hands-on now has to fully include practical skill in those areas too. If you get hands-on experience in, say, data analysis, it means you've personally wrestled with messy data sets, you've written the actual analysis scripts, you've run the statistical models yourself, not just read about the methods.
So it's the difference between knowing Python syntax from a book and actually building a working app with Python.
Precisely. The hands might just be typing on a keyboard, but the principle is the same. You're actively engaged in the process, applying the knowledge, getting direct feedback from the system itself. Your conceptual hands are still on the task.
That's a key point for anyone learning skills today. It's about applying the theory in a way that gives you immediate feedback, even if that feedback is just an error message popping up on your screen.
Absolutely. The learning happens through the action, through developing that pattern recognition or muscle memory, and through that instant feedback loop from the task itself.
Okay, but hang on. We're praising hands-on learning so much. Is there a risk here? Can you have too much hands-on without enough theory? Like, you probably shouldn't get hands-on experience operating a nuclear reactor without reading the manual first.
Huh. Yes, that's the crucial caveat, isn't it? We champion hands-on, but it's almost always best seen as the vital second stage.
Stage 2. Okay.
The theoretical knowledge provides the foundation, the safety framework, the understanding of why you're doing what you're doing. Especially in complex or high-risk fields, medicine, aviation, engineering, even sophisticated programming. Theory comes first. Hands-on is where you demonstrate you can apply that theory safely, effectively, efficiently.
Got it. So the phrase hands-on experience isn't dismissing theory, it's highlighting the essential bridge between knowing something and being able to execute it effectively.
Exactly. You can't truly master a practical skill just by watching or reading. You have to engage, physically or functionally.
So when you use this phrase or when you see it, it's signaling demonstrated practical competence. Skill proven through doing, not just knowing.
That's the essence of it.
Wow, okay. That really was a deep dive into just 4 phrases.
No way.
But they carry so much weight in everyday English, don't they?
They really do. We've gone way beyond just the dictionary definitions to hopefully understand their social function, their professional impact.
Yeah. So, to quickly recap for everyone listening, we looked at back and forth. That signals an exchange, often iterative, maybe involving some negotiation or complex discussion. It's about movement, physical or intellectual.
Then short notice. That's all about time pressure. In personal life, often used with an apology, managing social awkwardness. In work life, more about adaptability and performance under constraint.
Right. Then we had come up with something. That's the phrase for creation and invention. Generating something new, whether it's a totally original story or a practical solution to a problem. Pulling that shiny idea out of the treasure chest.
Love that analogy. And finally, hands-on experience. The big one for skills. It means learning by actively doing, proving practical competence, bridging the gap between theory and real-world application.
So the takeaway for you listening is that consciously using these phrases, really understanding the context and the nuance, that's going to make your English sound much more natural, much more fluent.
Absolutely. It moves you away from just translating in your head and towards genuinely communicating within the flow of the language. When phrases like these become second nature, that's when you know you're really getting there.
So what's the big final thought here? What should people chew on after this? It seems like it boils down to the power of simple words combined.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. You notice 3 out of the 4 phrases we spent all this time on, back and forth, come up with something, hands-on experience. They're built from incredibly common, basic English words. Back, forth, come, up, hand, on. Short, notice too. Very common.
That's true.
So our final thought is really about that. The immense power packed into these simple combinations. These 4 phrases are perfect examples of how everyday verbs and nouns can totally change their meaning, create entirely new concepts just by pairing up with simple prepositions or adverbs like up or forth or on. And these new concepts are absolutely vital for daily conversation. So we'd encourage you to maybe look at the English you already know. Think about those small common words and wonder, how many other little 2-word or 3-word combinations like these might be out there? Phrases that, if you really understood their deeper meaning and usage, could unlock another level of fluency for you. Keep an eye out for those simple combinations. They're often the real keys to sounding natural.
That's a fantastic point to end on. Explore the power of the small stuff. Excellent. Well, until next time, keep diving deep.